Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 1970 WBC tournament, the Winter Baseball Classic. Just gonna get right through what we're doing here now. If you're just joined us, we've we wrapped up the Fall League of 1977 and 1980 during the Super Bowl weekend of 2022. We followed that up with end of year videos and also a projection of future draft picks for the Fall League coming in 2022, where you advance that league 1 year into the future to 1978, 79, 80, and 81. And then we are going to do a draft of the 1970, 71, 72, 73 Summer League in the middle of the month. That's the long Summer League. The Summer League is about 670 games. The Fall League is about 400 games. And I put a lot more work into the Summer League as far as competitiveness and scheduling and that sort of thing, and try and get a truer result. A lot more crazier things would happen in the Fall League, as it's more random and odd for that bit of information. But what we're looking at here right now is this WBC tournament. And what is the Winter Baseball Classic tournament? Well, I got to tell you a little story first, that back in the 1990s is when I sort of got back into Strat-O-Matic, and I acquired a secondhand set of 1980 cards that was incomplete. It had about 600 cards in it, and in that set I decided I would make rosters for 20 fictional teams. And the 20 fictional towns are in the U.S. and Canada that I visited and that I liked, and so I chose those towns to host fictional baseball teams. Consider them to be like spring training cities, if you want. As it turns out, there was 5 regions. I color-coded the regions. A green region would be in the northeast, a yellow region down in the Sun Belt in the south, a red along the Mississippi River, and 2 out west, a purple region in Southern California and Arizona, and a light pale blue region in the Pacific Northwest. So there were 5 regions. What has happened is, in the carryover league, you might be familiar with my expansion teams: Portland, Las Vegas, the Ohio Players, and the Expos were moved into Burlington, geographically across the U.S. border from Montreal. So these were for the 4 fictional cities I moved into my carryover league, but I invented the concept at least, back in the 1990s when I first organized a single season league, moving the cards around in a random draft. And this was all done with dice and charts and paper and pencil and loose leaf paper. So these actually have more history than the carryover league, believe it or not. And so from that, I'm left with 16, right? 16 of these teams are kind of trapped in this other world. They're not in the carryover league, and so I said I'm going to play a spring training tournament every year to reclaim those little towns and those little rosters. And the point of this tournament is to evaluate the first year in the timeline. So that is 1970. And because the 1970, 71, 72, 73 year season is drafting in a month, we know that we have 1970 player cards in the carryover league already. Each team would have 6 of them. And 6 times 32 teams is 192. This is alphabetically. And of course, being 1970 guys, these would be some of the best players of 1970, such as Carl Yastrzemski's monster 1970 card, such as the two most valuable players, Boog Powell of Baltimore, and of course from the Reds, Johnny Bench. So those cards, these 192 cards, are not represented. They're stuck in the carryover league where they're continuing on. But as you know, each season I draft out a year to 640 players. Let me do a zoom here so we can see this a little better. So each year I draft out to 640 players. And how I do that is I have to add nameless cards, because during this period of pre-Seattle Toronto expansion, post the 69 expansion, this is very interesting math. Major League Baseball had 20 teams in 1968. And then they added 4 in 1969. You get to 24. Those being Kansas City, Seattle Pilots, Montreal, and San Diego. So you have 24 teams. Strat-O-Matic made 24 per team, about 576 with extra players. And to get to 640, I had to make a bunch of nameless cards to fill out rosters. And those players are seen here. And a lot of these players, with this purple code, this number 300 signifies a nameless card to me. And I pick and chose guys out of Baseball Reference I wanted to include, who I knew would have some level of future performance in the league. John Lowenstein, I know plays, Johnny Oates, Gene Kleins. These are some guys that I know would continue a baseball career anyway. So you have 640 cards in the 1970 season. You know that 192 of them are missing. So you're about 448 cards to play with here for this little tournament. And the cards I try and get into the carryover league begin with the players put on waivers from the 69, 70, 71, 72 league I just played last summer. The 64 guys on waivers. And what I want to do is I want to look at these cards. I know if they're on waivers, they have a Strat-O-Matic card for 1970. So the point is to play with these cards in a little tournament. These players who are just on the fringe, or on the edge of baseball, some of these guys are okay, some of them are not. But I want to take a look at them. So the league's going to start with these 64 guys. To that, we also have your keepers. These are cards, player names we're all familiar with. Rusty Staub, we know he'll be in the league. But his card was the 1969 card. That was the card that was put back in the box. 1969's over with. So I've got to decide if I want to use Rusty Staub's 1970, 71, 72, or 73 card. All these guys, Reggie Smith, Bill Singer, all these stars, Tom Seaver, Frank Robinson. There's some great names on your keeper list here, right? So I got to decide, not right now, but I at least get to look at the 1970 cards, knowing that this is the very last chance for a lot of these cards for me to take a look at them. And as a matter of fact, I have a list of players I assembled from, I'll zoom on this one too. These are players whose 1970 was their last year in baseball, highlighted in this purple color. And it could be because they were only in the league one year, maybe they were just a minor league call-up, or they're very old players and it was their last year. Bob Reed, Fred Cambria, Jerry Kreider, Mike Wegener, Dave Moorhead. Not exactly household names. You say Lee Stang, Roberto Rodriguez, Danny Murphy. Some of these guys might be. But the point is, this is the last chance for these guys to get drafted into the league to this point. They have not made it because performance has not been very good. So this is their last chance. Otherwise, they'll never get into my league. So the World Baseball Classic is an auditioning site for waivered guys, keepered guys, guys in their last chance, and plus other guys filling in roster spots. The 1969 WBC last year, these were the actual rosters. I actually drafted out 20-man rosters for 30 teams. So I drafted out 600 players, and instead of 640, to move some talent around. And plus there's some other fictional towns in here that aren't even involved. But this sort of established where to put players, you know, balancing from 16 places to put players. And that was in 1969. So in 1970, I pretty much looked for the same path and put players from 1969 on those same similar teams. So in the way the draft happens is eventually this abbreviation here, ATH, would happen to be alphabetically the abbreviation for Athens, Georgia. And then all these color-coded teams, BUR is for the Expos, CIC for Coney Island, H is Halifax, Nova Scotia, HOH is Hollywood, the Hollywood Hills, etc. So eventually, I simply have a draft, and I move all the talent around. You'll see a lot of different color coding. The light green color means that the player has a card that is in the league already in a different year. For instance, Tony Oliva's card is with the Twins with a 71 year, I believe. Same with Doug Rader. And then you have same thing here with the dark green colors. So here's the rosters of the draft. Every team is supposed to draft a couple guys off the waiver list, at least two. And Coney Island, from the green region in New York, drafts Sonny Jackson, Rick Joseph, Ron Willis off the waiver list, indicated in yellow. Then Rhode Island takes Willie Smith. They take a bunch. Wally Bunker, Kilkenny, and then they Murphy and Bolin, and so forth and so on. So these rosters, the purple guys are those nameless cards when I can't find anybody else available. They're sort of like just filling out the roster so I can play a game, because there's no other either left-handed pitchers available, no other middle infielders available, etc. So the purpose of this tournament, as we look at come back to this, is to play a little double elimination tournament with 16 teams, 20 player per team for 320 players of a possible 448 cards that were available to be picked from. And so I had to, of course, I couldn't do the colors. The yellow region stayed consistent. I had to move some teams into different regions because I didn't have enough teams. Because I had 5 divisions with the 4 colors, and I took 4 of those teams away. The yellow region stayed intact. The green, red, blue, and purple did not stay intact. And so, based on last year's results, the divisions were seeded. I renamed the green division the Island, Halifax, Coney Island, Rhode Island, Vancouver Island, which is on the west coast, I understand, but it's an island. It's Victoria, where Parliament would be, Sunbelt in the southeast, the Gulf of Mexico, Mississippi, New Orleans, Memphis, and then Tucson had to move over here as they were the easternmost west place. They had to move over into this division. And out west, it's split between the north and the south. You got SeaTac, Seattle, Tacoma, Hollywood, Chula Vista, Southern California, Mexico, Missoula, Montana. So those are the 4 regions, the 4 seeds. And the way the schedule goes is it's a double elimination tournament. You start by playing a best of 7. Then you have a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket. Winner's bracket plays a best of 5. Once those are played, and I've played so far, I've played the best of 7s, and I've played the winner's bracket best of 5s. These teams right here, indicated CIC means Coney Island, SCM is South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, New Orleans is here, Missoula here. Those teams receive byes as winning the best of 7 and best of 5, winning both brackets. They have 7 wins. You see 7-4, 7-3, 7-2, 7-4. I can erase some of these numbers that were present last year. And the losers of the winners bracket have these records here. They couldn't get to this. That couldn't get that 7th win. They end up with 6 or 5. And so the next step of the tournament is to play the loser bracket best of 5s. If you lose here, you're done. And the point is, these 4 losers would take the tournament down to 12 teams. So then you'd have these 4 would skip play. They're on a bye. And then the middle 8, teams 5 through 12, they would play down here a best of 3. A best of 3 to eliminate 4 more. Then the bye teams get added back in. You play a best of 5. And then eventually you get to like a divisional league championship World Series, which are all best of 7. So it's a fun little tournament to look at talent at different spots. When you look at some of the rosters, which I have over here, sometimes I regionally move players to where players might be. And looking at some player names, let me zoom on this. There's going to be some good players here. There's going to be some Hall of Famers here. So we know from 1969 Mets, we know that they had Tom Seaver used. We know they had Cleon Jones used with their monster 1969 seasons. Those 2 players were drafted into New York to Coney Island, as it turns out, and they get to play for them. And this is a way of figuring out if I want to look at Tom Seaver's card some more in this little tournament and see if I pick his 70 card or pick 71, 2, or 3. Same with Cleon Jones. And there's lots of other players here. You know, Reggie Jackson has a New York connection, of course. So I kind of do that sometimes. Rhode Island, I think, has a Boston connection, etc. I do, you know, when I can, I try and move players regionally. But it's a fun little tournament. And the idea is it's a scouting mission. The most important part is really looking at the last chance guys and the waiver guys. Because look, I mean, as far as this list goes, you're not going to go wrong with a Rusty Staub or Reggie Smith or, you know, it's pretty obvious. It doesn't take much recognition to find a good year for these guys. Even if it's not the best year, depending on how you rate what is the best year, it's hard to mess up Frank Robinson and not pick his best year or whatever. Same with I just said Tom Seaver. You're not going to go wrong with any of the 4 years. So it's really not that critical. And I do like to look at these cards, of course, because I know I got to make that decision when the draft comes. But really, it's these waivered guys because beyond knowing that they've been put on waivers, they're not playing on these teams anymore. Those teams put them on waivers. They can sign anywhere. And not only that, they might not even sign because they might not be any good. They might be replaced by younger players. These guys might be near the end of the rope. Guys will be forced into retirement much sooner in a carryover league because of the level of competition. So it's a lot different than Major League Baseball, where guys will play a long time because they're under contract and they're a savvy veteran, etc. So that is the point of the tournament. That is the plan for the next few weeks. It's a fun little tournament that I've been put in play for over 20 years now, going back to the 1990s. And I did this last year on YouTube, and we'll do it again here. And next time we meet for a game, it'll be a World Baseball Classic game. We have the schedule of these teams here, and it's an elimination. The game I play will most likely eliminate a team, so there will be high drama regarding that. And we have regular pitching rotations that I follow, trying to pitch every guy who can on 3 days rest if they can, or on 4 days rest. So I stick to a lot of the basic rules I use. But it's glorified spring training baseball in a lot of ways. The point is for me to take a look at the players, and at the end of all the games, when a team gets eliminated, I'll look at the actual 20 cards and put them on camera so you all can see the players and comment along with me as to whether you think those cards should continue into the carryover league, or maybe some guys are so awful they shouldn't. So that's the method, that's the goals. Thank you for checking this video out. Hope you can tune in for the next couple weeks to the WBC, the 1970 Winter Baseball Classic. We'll see you next time.